Wilson D. Calhoun. You're on Arcadia Podcast.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is another episode of Arcadia Pod. I am your host, Stephen Kelly, and we're jumping right back into some wrestling stuff. This is going to be probably a shorter episode. I say that, it's going to be like 2 hours long, I bet. But anyway, probably a shorter episode. I don't have any mailbag stuff, and I was just trying to get this one out. Thank you all for indulging me in my anime episode last time. Like I said, I'm going to probably have movie episodes from here and there, and maybe here pretty soon, I might even try to take my camera with me to like a historic site and do something like a travel deal. But like I said, this is going to be a shorter one. I think this and the next episode are going to be shorter. That way I can get them out of there and then save like a big news update for the more lean month of June, where there's only really one wrestling show that I'm going to probably go to. In fact, I'm going to talk about that here in a bit. News-wise, I did find out, I did not know about this, so I did not mention it, but World League Wrestling actually was in town here a while back. This is at the Lathrop Friendship Festival, which is over by Excelsior Springs. I didn't know about this until I had already made plans, unfortunately. And it was like at a festival, so I don't know. Didn't know anything about, the tickets or anything. But it was a 2-day kind of deal, and some faces you don't see too often in WLW anymore, like Mike Seidel was there, which is awesome. So I'm kind of bummed I missed it, but hopefully I can get some results from them, and I reached out for that, so fingers crossed. But if you were there, let me know how it was. That's one of those things where I wish I would have known about it earlier, but that's on me. I have been busy at work. So they posted some pictures of it, but so if you check out their Facebook, they've got some videos and stuff, but it looks like a good time. Your typical outdoor kind of, festival wrestling show. So pretty cool. Here's the upcoming shows that I have on my calendar, at least. I can't guarantee I'm going to go to all these. Usually July's sparse, but July this year is crazy. But basically we've got, KCXW Checkpoint Mayhem, which is going to be a few days after when this is recorded. You've got CSW Legacy 2, which is going to have a huge cage match at it. New Breed is going to be back in Sedalia on July 11th. They're going to be about a week after that, July 19th. Midnight Pro on a Sunday is going to have a show. And then July 25th, KCXW Extreme Freedom is going to be there. And then July 26th, Fountain City Pro Forever is on a Sunday. And that is something I probably could have put in the news. But Fountain City Pro had been trying for a while to have shows in the Guitars and Cadillacs venue, which was the home of Journey Pro Wrestling for a while. And some stuff fell through. And if you recall, there was Adrenaline Championship Wrestling was running out of that for 3 shows last year. But I won't go into all the details about that, but for the most part, it looks like they have made a deal with that venue to return after they did the joint Fountain City Journey Pro kind of reunion show at the end of 2024. So it looks like whatever hatchet there was has been buried, and looks like they're coming back in. So we have an interesting little dynamic for 2026 that a lot of companies, probably because of the fact that there's only so many Saturdays that you can do a show on, and they easily get very crowded, especially when you have 5 and at the moment 7 wrestling promotions running out of Kansas City, and then 2 more in Central Missouri, and a couple close to eastern part of Kansas that might drift over here every once in a while, like in Topeka, and stuff like that. So you've got a lot of wrestling that could come here and not enough days of the month, So a lot of times we've seen Fountain City running on Fridays, and we had that one weird, Wednesday that they did, but it looks like they're settling on trying to do Sunday. So it's interesting to see the Midnight Pro and Fountain City are basically running Sundays. So we'll see how that goes. I will attempt to go to those. I can't guarantee it because, I have stuff going on sometimes, but I should be able to make that work. I had even considered taking a week off in July, so maybe that week that straddles those two, maybe that's what I'll do. So yeah, let's go now to Sedalia Stampede. I've talked about it a little while. That I originally, well, I'm not originally from Warrensburg. I'm from Lewisburg, Kansas, more than anything. But I lived in Warrensburg for 20 years, and it's one of those things where whenever I go back to Sedalia, it's almost like a homecoming thing because I lived there for so long in Warrensburg and would go to Sedalia and stuff. So kind of cool. But the show we're going to be talking about was called New Breed Wrestling Sedalia Stampede. And let me get my cat. Stop making all that sound. Hey. Okay. That probably did nothing. And it wouldn't be an episode of my podcast without my cat trying to sabotage it. So there we go. Anyway, so Sedalia Stampede. Here's kind of what ran down on it. Now, I am behind on New Breed, so there are a few shows after. There was a show in November in Sedalia that was their last show for that year, I believe. No, they had that. Sorry, they had a Christmas show after that in Eldon, I believe, and then I think this show comes after one or two shows that have already happened. So I'm a little bit behind, but for the most part, the storylines that start in Sedalia generally end in Sedalia. So that's kind of a cool thing this company does. So the show started out, Scotty Z, who is the primary owner of the company, came out and he talked about Scarlet Mania from Ava, Missouri, which was a benefit show. There was a little girl that had suffered a water accident swimming and had got sucked into a drain pipe or something and is battling some medical stuff. And the whole show was a benefit for her. And it sounds like it was not a dry eye in sight, and a lot of money was made. It's a lot of celebrity people there, like within wrestling and without, kind of local celebrities there. So it sounded like it was a really cool thing. I can't wait to see some of the stuff when they eventually put it on YouTube. So I'm excited to see that. And he gave everybody a rundown of that. He talked about Austin Mulitalo was in the house, and it was, he has not been in New Breed for about a year now. And so to have him pop in randomly on the show was really cool, and getting to see kind of a one night only sort of thing. And Miss Wendy was going to be filling in as ring announcer. So those that are, have been around the scene for the last like 5 years or so will recognize Miss Wendy. She's done ring announcing in a lot of companies, and so it's cool to see her pop up in New Breed. Scotty then called out Joe Helms, and he talked about he had recent medical issues. He had not too long ago been in a car accident, and apparently it triggered blood clots, and it all came to fruition when he was in a wrestling match where he all of a sudden couldn't breathe and had to be rushed to the ER, and something like that could have ended his wrestling career, but he's pushed through. He's a tough dude, and he made it through and still out there kicking it. So that was awesome. But when he was telling his story, all of a sudden music kicked in, and Beastzilla Mike Dansky, who you might remember, he's wrestled a little bit in Tri-States and he's wrestled a little bit in Show Me States, showed up and confronted Joe Helms, called him out, said he's old, basically said he's the younger, better version of him, and he challenges him for the U.S. Championship. And crowd was not happy with Beastzilla at all, and he he did not frankly care what the crowd thought either. So that led into the tag team match. You had a team of the New Age Enigma Psychotic and the Man of the People, Harrison Cruz, and they defeated the team of Jay Pierce and Hood Billy Krause and D. Calhoun. Pretty solid match. I'm always a big fan of Psychotic. A lot of the stuff he can do. Really digging Harrison Cruz lately. I was kind of torn because I do like some CDC a lot of times, but it seemed like he picked the wrong partner here, and they ended up losing. And another win in the win panel for Psychotic and Harrison Cruz, and both of them are rising stars in New Breed, and it's always cool to see them getting a good foothold in the company over there. Next up was a singles match. King Saber defeated Cornelius J. Poppington, who had Money Mike Pettis in his corner. This one actually really surprised me. I figured that Pettis was going to pull some nonsense and cause King Saber, who's a relative, rookie still. He's the Arcadia Pod Rookie of the Year for 2025. But realistically, he had his first match back in late July of 2025, so he has not been wrestling for a very long time. And I figured he wouldn't have the ring awareness to keep tabs on multiple people trying to mess up the match, but hats off to him. He hung in there and he managed to get a big win on Cornelius J. Poppington. CJP, as you can imagine, was very pleasant to be around after that, and totally didn't throw a fit or anything. Next up was a singles match for the New Breed Wrestling U.S. Championship. The Silverback Big Joe Helms and technically ended up beating Beastzilla Mike Dansky due to a DQ. The match went back and forth pretty good. Dansky actually nearly won a number of times, but Helms was kind of hanging in there, and anything that Dansky threw at Helms, he took it right back at him. Helms has to outweigh him by probably, like maybe 30 pounds or something, but he's much bigger, much more muscular, and it was looking at one point like Dansky was probably about to eat the big one, and Dansky grabbed the championship belt and just right in front of the referee, slapped it up above his head, hit Helms in the face. Match was immediately called right there. They brawled. Dansky got the last left, laid him out, stomped on him, draped the belt over him. So I know for a fact that's not over with. I can almost guarantee we're going to see a return to that probably at the next Sedalia show in July. Next up, System of Brutality came out, and they specifically were talking trash on Monstrous Mike Maverick, who was going to be wrestling for the championship belt against the Iron Pitbull later that night. And, Maverick came out, big brawl happened, big pull apart, so you knew that match was going to be crazy. Tag team match for the New Breed Tag Team Championships. Ghost Ship, which is the name for FTG and the High Seas Caesar Shipwreck, alongside Paco the Parrot, Shipwreck's little puppet friend. And they defeated the Wranglers, who is Bobby Joe Black and Johnny Joe Black. The Wranglers seemed to be off on the wrong foot throughout part of the match. So there seemed to be some miscommunication going on. I saw some Shipwreck was doing his typical Shipwreck antics, but he was uncharacteristically brutal in a couple spots in here. So Shipwreck, people discount him because he comes out and he's silly, trips over everything, and depending on how much he's been drinking, I'm sure it's a liability for him. But when he hones in on things, and especially when someone hurts Paco or something, he can go pretty crazy. And this was one of those matches. They ended up getting the big win, continuing their reign that started, back in November in Sedalia. So, hats off to Ghost Ship. We'll have to see what's next for the Wranglers, but that was, Johnny took a hell of a beating, and it looks like Bobby, almost was able to pull a big win out, but unable to do it. So, it is what it is. There was a singles match for the New Breed Women's Championship. Lady Pride with Mike Pettis and Cornelia and CJP defeated Just Missy. Just Missy had the cards stacked against her so bad in this, because not only did you have Mike Pettis there, but you also had CJP, and CJP, as if he was trying to rectify his loss from earlier in the match, was on it. Anytime Missy got too close to the corner, he's grabbing her foot, he's knocking her over. Realistically, that was probably what did it. And the 3-on-1 match, more or less, and Missy ate the loss, unfortunately. And Lady Pride continues to be the New Breed Women's Champion. Next up was the hypothetical specialist, Dr. Ison, coming up against Austin Mulatalo, one night only. That match was a hell of a match with a great back and forth. It kind of started out like a friendly, like, ha 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 match where they were both, slapping each other and then doing like going tit for tat on certain moves. And then at some point, it seemed like Mulatalo crossed the line and pissed off Dr. Ison, and Ison kind of turned. And it's a thing we've seen with Dr. Ison. Ison comes out and kind of pretends to be a happy, fun-loving guy, but realistically, a lot of it's a facade, and he's actually kind of a nasty dude in some ways. And he kind of let that slip a little bit. Either that or he loses his temperament very easily. And it went back and forth, but it did end with a time limit draw. 5 minutes were added, and then Dr. Ison managed to secure the big win. So fans of Dr. Ison were over the moon. Fans of Austin were not happy, but it was a good match. Probably one of the better, probably the match of the night for me at least. I quite enjoyed it. And the main event was a singles match for the New Breed Heavyweight Championship. Iron Pitbull Kenny Kingston with Mike Pettis defeated Monstrous Mike Maverick. Great back and forth, big men fighting match. You've got Kingston, who probably weighs something like 350, and you've got Mike Maverick, who's not as big, but he's like, 6'7". He's a pretty tall guy, and so these guys are just going to town on each other throughout this match. You did have the whole thing where when you have one member of the SOB out there, they're all technically out there for the most part. So there was some interference, and ultimately that's what led to his defeat for the most part. So Kingston's out there gloating, and then Dr. Ison comes out, and he points out that match that he just had with Austin was a number one contendership match, and that Scotty Z is going to be in his corner. So once again, we're going to see hopefully the culmination of the long-running Dr. Ison versus the SOB feud, this time with Scotty Z once again kind of stepping in a little bit, because ultimately you've got Scotty Z trying to rid his company of the SOB, and despite the fact that like half of the Sedalia fans root for the SOB, the New Breed ownership is not a fan of them being there. Show closed with a big brawl. So overall, good show. Sedalia is always a good show. It's a great venue. They have, you if you're able to get a front row ticket, it comes with a free $5 coupon for a meal. So you go get your hot dog and your drink and everything. Venue's awesome. It's one of the few venues that during the summertime, when it's routinely 90 degrees outside, you can go in there and it's probably going to be like 60 degrees in the venue, because for some reason it has the best air conditioner I've ever seen. Crowd's always great. It's a different wrestling crowd than what you see in a lot of places. It's a little bit of an older crowd, more traditional style wrestling. So, but I always love when New Breed comes to Sedalia, and I try not to miss them if I can. So hopefully I can make the next one. I'd like to see what the fallout for this ends up being. So overall, great show. I posted some pictures on my Facebook, and I also made a little video that I posted on there, but I'm going to show you the very same video right here. So get ready for that now. All right, thanks for watching that. Like I said, that's just a selection of some pictures I took during the show, and I always make little music videos for that on Instagram and stuff. I figured a long time ago, might as well put it on here too, but that's kind of what happened. Um, if you're a big New Breed fan and you were at that show, let me know what your favorite match was, and hopefully I'll see you guys again at the next one. So that's it for this edition. And whoa, we got a record short episode here. I'm going to try to get this in, and then here after the KCXW show, I'm going to try to get that one done pretty quick. That way, I can maybe work on some longer episodes in a couple weeks. But once again, thank you all so much for coming in and watching this. I always appreciate all the kind words. If you guys like my stuff, go to my Facebook. I've got try to post all the news that I can for local groups, results. I've got little videos. I've got any of this stuff that I've summarized. I post on there. Don't forget to go to Amazon, look up the KC Ringside Annual 2024. Buy yourself a copy of that today. I am currently working on the 2025 annual, so once that's done, I will start hyping that up quite a bit. And just in general, stay in touch. Let me know what you think, and let me know if you have anything you want me to start talking about on here. I thank you all very much, and you have a wonderful night.